Welcome, Gunrunner.
Hello everybody, Kieran aka the Laird here, and in this week's hardware review I've got something very different for you, and I'll explain how this came about in a moment. But basically we're going to be looking at a load of old joysticks, 10 to be exact. Now, how this video came about, I've said on my channel quite recently, I can't remember if it was in video or on the community tab, but I'm moving house quite soon, and obviously I've started packing, including all the stuff that's in my garage, which is all my retro stuff is all in my garage at the moment in boxes, and some of it was on display shelves and such like. And yeah, all that's obviously got to be packed up. And as I was packing and sorting stuff, I started discovering loads of old controllers for different systems. I found a couple of bags that had some in, which I assume is probably from where I took them to events to be used on various consoles and computers, and also came across other odds and ends in strange places. But yeah, I started gathering them all together, and what I've done is I've picked out 10 purely joysticks, no joypads, just joysticks, of those that I found, that give quite a big, wide selection of different ones, and I thought you might like to see them, and perhaps this might be nostalgic for you if you owned one of these controllers with one of your systems back in the day. So yeah, and the other thing that kind of inspired me to make this video was that I remember many years back, God, probably about 10 years ago at least, the brilliant Stuart Ashen, aka Ashens, made a similar video looking at a load of old joysticks, which I absolutely loved. It's one of his videos that's the most memorable to me, because I remember watching it and seeing joysticks that I had and thinking, oh yeah, cool, I had that, and ones that weren't so good and stuff like that. So that was the two things that inspired me to make this video, and also it's quite an easy one for me to make at a time when it's pretty much chaos in my house, because we're just packing boxes left, right, and centre to get ready for the move, which will work out nicely once it's all done, because we're moving into a bigger house as well. I have more room to display my retro stuff, and I'm going to have my own office and stuff like that. So really looking forward to the move. So let's get on with looking at some of these joysticks then, shall we? So let's start with the daddy of them all, which has to be the Atari CX40, because it really is the first joystick to come with a home system, because the only console obviously came before. There's two consoles that came before the 2600 proper consoles, which were the Fairchild Channel F, which had a weird kind of pull handle controller, and the RCA Studio 2, which just had buttons on the console. So this was the first proper joystick that came with a console. This isn't the original design, because the original design was slightly different. It had like orange around the outside, had an Atari logo on the top. I do have a couple of those actually. I think they're packed in the box with my wood grain 2600 though, which is something I've already packed. But I thought this one did the job well enough. I mean, it's basically the same joystick, isn't it, with the old rubber base even around the bottom, obviously the rubbery stick, one single nice red fire button, and that's it. And obviously the classic oh god, can't get the lead out now, Atari DB9 joystick connector, which became the industry standard for many years, and a lot of companies used it without permission of Atari, and then later Atari sued them and got some money out of them for using that plug. Sega was one actually that had to pay Atari quite a lot of money for using the DB9. So yes, there was quite a few companies that fell foul of that. But classic joystick. Opinions on it these days seem to be mixed. I mean, I loved this joystick back in the day, so much so in fact that I had a Spectrum before a 2600, and when I got my 2600, I loved this joystick so much and using it. I like the fact that I have quite small hands, and I think I like the fact it fitted in my hand and I could hold it, and I found it really easy to use. A lot of people say they're unresponsive, but I never found that, and I never found it hurt my hand or gave me cramps either. I just really liked the Atari joystick. So yeah, so much so that actually with my Spectrum I ended up buying a little plug adapter that plugged into the side of my Plus 2, so I could use Atari, or Kempston as they were called on the Spectrum, joysticks with my Plus 2, because that would only take Sinclair joysticks, like that horrible one behind, which we'll get onto in a little while. Although I used to Cheetah 125 Plus with my Spectrum, but yeah, this ended up being a joystick that I used my Spectrum at the same time as I had my 2600. And then a little bit after that, I got an ST, and obviously my ST came with I think it came with one of these, but I also already had two for my 2600. So yeah, I used it again with the ST. So it was actually my joystick of choice, really, for many years. It got used. So that's the good old CX40, a joystick I have probably more nostalgia for than any other joystick, and one that I love. And I'll do this next just because it's related to that one. But I also grabbed one of my XE Game System joysticks, which you can see here, which obviously is the CX40, exactly the same. Apart from it has this sort of beigey grey base to match the XE Game System itself, which is pretty cool. But that was the only difference. And these only came with the XE Game System, strangely. They never bundled them with the ST, and they never bundled them with the 130 or 65XE. Despite the fact them all using that same kind of off-white kind of colour. This one's gone a bit yellowy, but because it seems strange that they never did. It would look very cool, I think, with the ST especially, if these had come with the ST instead of black ones. But there we go. So I suppose I better go to that infamous Sinclair joystick, hadn't I? So I had a Plus 2A. This is actually one from the grey Plus 2. But the one that came with the Plus 2A in the initial years was identical to this, apart from it was black, because to match that computer. But the first thing I did when I got my Spectrum Plus 2A was buy a new joystick, a Cheetah 125 Plus, which I bought from Argos, because these are so horrendously bad. But the funny thing is that because we could only afford one joystick at the time, I bought that Cheetah with my paper round money. My younger brother, who didn't have money coming in, if we were playing two-player games, guess he had to use the Sinclair SJ1. It was him, yes. And he learned to absolutely loathe this joystick. You can probably already spot one of the things that's wrong with it. It just rattles about and doesn't actually center properly. It's so cheap and so rubbish and so inaccurate. And the fire button is terrible as well, because it takes a while to pop back out, so you can't really fire fast with it because it's just not responsive enough. But there is one thing that this joystick is really good for, and that's sports games. And actually not just sports games, the multi-event sports games, you know, the ones where you have to waggle the joystick, most notably Daley Thompson's Decathlon, because I actually broke my Cheetah 125 Plus playing Daley Thompson's Decathlon and ended up having to buy another one. But it wasn't until after that I actually figured out this trick, and I wish I'd learned it earlier, because it would have saved me having to buy a new bloody joystick. But basically, because the way it rattles and moves around, what you could do to play the game is you could literally get this joystick, hold it in your hand like this, and then do that. Basically like a cheat mode. Absolutely brilliant. Just keep shaking it, and it saved your wrist and made the game really easy to win. So there we go. There's a little Easter egg in this video for you. Oh god, what a horrible joystick that was. But what did the Commodore get? Of course, the Spectrum's big rival here in the UK. Well, I've got two Commodore joysticks here, so we'll have a look at them first. I assume this is the one that came with the earlier Commodores, like the bread bins. Tiny little thing it is, with one fire button and this strange triangular stick on the top, which is rubberized, like the Atari joystick. And of course, like all of these rubberized joysticks, it has what look like teeth marks in the top of it. There you go, you can see that there. because people either bit them because they got annoyed with the game. This Atari joystick has it, but it does have it actually. A little tiny bit, but not much. There's a little bit of wear around the top, actually. I have got a couple of Atari joysticks that are quite well bitten around the top, but this one has been big time. And my brother used to do that. He used to bite the joystick. His Atari joystick was bitten around the top like that. And in fact, I always remember that when he got a Game Boy, his Game Boy had teeth marks in it as well, where he used to bite the top of it when he got annoyed. Quite funny, really. The other thing often happened actually with these tops of these is not just people biting them when they got annoyed with games, whereas dogs, because they were rubberized, they were a lot like dog toys. So a lot of dogs would pick them up and bite them as well. So that was quite common for them to have dog teeth marks in. But strange little joystick, not very comfortable to hold. That fire button is absolutely terrible. It's got the same problem as the Sinclair one actually, that it kind of isn't very responsive and it gets a bit stuck. But yeah, standard Atari 9-pin, but it's very, I can imagine this giving you terrible hand cramps after extended play, because you really have to push it quite a lot as well. It doesn't feel like it's moving much. Yeah, really horrible. I pity anyone who got one of those with their Commodore 64, because it does not seem very good. But with later Commodore 64s, including the, of course, Commodore 64 game system, came with a Cheetah produced joystick, the Cheetah Annihilator, which is what this is. There were black versions as well for other systems. I think you can get it for the Spectrum and stuff, but this is the one that came with the C64C computer and the C64 game system, obviously. So that's that. So this is a lot better, obviously, than the original joystick, because you've got a trigger, which is pretty responsive, button on the top, which isn't too bad. This joystick's a bit old and knackered, and one on the base. So that's pretty cool. And I seem to remember that with the one that came with the C64 game system, they made the top button and the bottom button independent. So you had two buttons like the NES and the Master System 7800. But hardly any games actually bothered using the second button, because obviously, well, all the games actually that were on the C64 game system were also compatible with the Commodore 64. So obviously you just left them as one button games, really. It was just easier. This is missing one of the rubber suction things on the bottom. It's come off, so you can't stick it to your desk properly anymore, really. But it's still got the warranty sticker on it, which is pretty unbelievable considering how battered it was. But Cheetah made really good joysticks back in the day. This wasn't one of their best. This is a bit of a cheapy, budgety one. It's not as good as the 125 Plus. Though it's a fairly similar design. This part of it is definitely the same as the 125 Plus. But certainly as a free sort of pack-in joystick, not too bad actually. And that leads us on to our next one, because Cheetah's big rival in the joystick market over here in the UK was, of course, Quickshot. Quickshot were made by Spectra Video, so I know you could get Quickshot stroke Spectra Video joysticks in the US as well. I think they were the biggest joystick brand in the world pretty much, because they were available everywhere, whereas Cheetah was mainly a UK company from what I believe. So this is first one. This is a Quick Joy. So I have got another one of these as well, Quick Joy 2 Turbo, it says in the back, SV124. I've got another one of these actually that's clear somewhere. I couldn't find it, but yeah, it's almost identical, but it's just got a clear base. You can see all the insides of it. But the other one I've got is, this is micro switched as well. I was going to say the other one is micro switched. This one is as well. You can probably hear that actually. So micro switch joysticks are always better, of course, because they were more accurate, more responsive, and they usually lasted a lot longer than leaf joysticks as well. So this one has a few nice features. So there it has a switch, you can see actually. So it can be used with the Amstrad CPC 464, because that had a slightly different joystick configuration. So you can switch that into place if you want to use it with that computer. And it also has on the top here, of course, auto fire, which is always good. For certain games if you wanted to cheat a bit, and nice micro switch buttons. So that's a great joystick. That's a really good Quickshot joystick. And my friend had this exact joystick back in the day. I had a friend who had a Spectrum Plus, and he had that same joystick, I always remember. And actually I had another friend who had a Quickshot 2 Turbo with his, which was fairly similar. That was a good joystick as well, the Quickshot 2 Turbo. A lot of people had the original Quickshot. I did know someone who had an original Quickshot, although I didn't really go in their house that much. But I do remember them well as well. I've got one somewhere. I know I have. I had the round button on the top of it, but I couldn't find it. But it's chaos here, with obviously full of boxes for moving. So could be anywhere, to be honest. So we'll have another look at a Quickshot, because I've got another one here that's probably my favourite Quickshot joystick. And that's the Quickshot Maverick. This is a very old dirty one, because I found this. I've got another one of these which is all nice and clean, which I actually use with my Atari 800 XL, but it's packed with that. But this is one that I picked up in a recent lot. I posted on my channel. It was some Commodore 64 stuff this came with, and that's where the other Commodore 64 joysticks there came from. That's why everything in there was filthy and stunk of smoke. But they've stuck a nice sticker saying ready, aim, fire on it, so that's cool, isn't it? But yeah, so how do these work then? So these are quite interesting, because obviously this is supposed to be modelled like an arcade stick. So you've got your joystick on the left with your fire buttons on the right. And you'll also notice that this one is the console version, because the other one that I've got in one of my boxes somewhere has two buttons. So it works with ST, Amiga, Commodore 64, Spectrum, etc. But you only really use one button, but it's got a switch on the bottom for Master System. So if you flick that switch, you can then use both buttons as if you're playing on a Master System. So that's pretty cool. If you had a Master System that had an Atari joystick socket, but this one, you'll notice, could be used with a Mega Drive, because it has 6 buttons. It's still an Atari standard plug, as you can see. So you can still use it with other computers and stuff as well, but obviously this was designed for the Mega Drive. There was a SNES version as well, which was in white, which you could get. So you have A, B, C, and then X, Y, Z along the top there, and there's your turbo fire function, slow motion function, which I always thought was completely pointless. Whenever you got slow motion on joysticks, all it used to do was basically pause the game repeatedly, which I always thought was just ridiculous. And then you've got their mode and start. So that's your select and start, really. So that's the console version of the Quickshot Maverick, or Quickshot Professional, as some people call it. But I'm not sure what the model number on it was. Does it say at the bottom? QS175. So there we go. Still had the individual Quickshot model numbers, but it's still got the suckers on it. But these are really great. They're not micro switched, but as far as non-micro switched joysticks go, I don't think you can get much better than these Quickshot Mavericks. Actually, I really like them. Because a lot of arcade sticks are massive, and I've got another one here to compare, so we can go into that one after. Because this is Sega's Arcade Power Stick 2, so you can see it's a lot bigger. And it's really heavy, this joystick, this one as well. Really, really heavy indeed. Whereas that's quite lightweight. So you can actually pick it up as well if you want to. But we'll move that out of the way, and we'll move this big boy in. I mean, even as arcade sticks go, this one is actually fairly small. There's ones that are a lot bigger. I've got a Saturn one that's quite similar to this, which I think is bigger. But obviously it's modern arcade sticks. You see they're like massive things. So this is the 6-button version of this. This is why it's the 2, because the one only had 3 buttons. Obviously this is the one you want, because if you want to play like Street Fighter 2, you want the 6 buttons. But you've not just got the 6 buttons to play like Street Fighter 2 in that. You've got Mega Fire Speed there, which is obviously something they kind of nicked off the TurboGrafx 16 and its turbo buttons on its controllers. You've got your select there between 3 and 6 button, which is important actually, because there were some games where they would crash if you had a 6-button joypad plugged in. Which is why the 6-button joypad had a mode button on the top, so you could switch it to a standard 3 button to full the console. There's your mode and there's your start. So we've also got auto fires for every single button, individual auto fire switches, which is great. Solid, good thing. This is metal base, so absolutely brilliant arcade stick, and that's why I've kept this, because if I was putting a fighting game on a Mega Drive when I was doing an event, you want one of these, don't you? Really, really good. Great joystick. Very sturdy. Bit dusty there because everything's been in the garage. But there we go. Great I haven't got many console ones here. Have I really? Most ones we looked at so far are more computer orientated. But yeah, this is definitely certainly the newest I think joystick I've got here. Most of the other ones are much older, but great stick anyway. So what else we got? I think we've only got a couple more to look at. So we'll go to this one. So this is only the two we've got left. So this is the Atari 7800 Proline joystick, or the pain line joystick, as many people called it, because it hurt your hands so much. And these are truly awful to use. I had one of these back in the day because I saw it in my one of my local game shops that I went in. This is when I actually had my 2600, I believe, and I thought, oh, that looks like quite a cool looking joystick. I thought it looked really funky. I loved the big Atari logo on it, and obviously the silver strip and all that matched my 2600. And indeed, some 2600s did come bundled with these. Even over here, the 7800, of course, in PAL regions came with a joypad, which is a godsend. Because these were horrible, which is one probably wondering why they swapped them out for joypads. Obviously, joypads made it look more like the NES and Master System as well. But these things were horrible, and I feel sorry for the American 7800 owners who had to use one of these and didn't get the really cool 7800 joypads because you had really no alternative. Because I would imagine that they were pretty hard to come by, the joypads. So I don't even know if they were. I don't even think they were sold in America. I believe they weren't. So you're pretty much stuck with one of these because the 7800 had its own unique two-button system. So the only way to use, like say, a NES controller was quite a lot of modification because, of course, the NES had a different plug on it as well. You could mod a Master System pad as well, of course, but yeah, the button setup was different, so you couldn't just plug it in and use it natively. It would only work one button. But yeah, I picked one of these up. I hated it. Never used it again, really. But they look quite nice, don't they? But they're absolutely awful to use. There we go. And I've got a variation of that, which I thought was cool to put in this video as well, because I have this, which is the Telegames Deluxe joystick, they called it. But it's quite obviously modelled on the Atari Proline. You can see, if I put them next to each other there, that they are very, very similar indeed. Slightly different knob on the top of the stick, but that's about it really. The case is pretty much identical. Slightly different above the fire buttons. The 7800 one sticks out and the Telegames one doesn't, but it's certainly modelled on the same design. But no silver strip. Instead, you have a cheap sticker, which on every single one of these I've come across, and this one is brand new. I bought it fairly recently from Telegames. You can still get them from there. The stickers all seem to be peeling off, and I've just pushed it back down again, but they're always still peeling off on that side. Actually, you can see it there, kind of in the light. But yeah, so obviously quite cheaply done. But the big advantage of these over that one was that it had an auto fire switch, or quick fire as it says on there. But that was the only real difference. Functionally the same to use. Also hurt your hand. Same two fire buttons. They work on 2600 or 7800. So this is actually the only third-party joystick for the 7800. The only one that I know of. I don't believe there was any others. Obviously, you could use plenty of choices with the 7800, but it was to have the independent two buttons, which this, of course, has, like the Proline has. But yeah, I suppose a little bit better than Proline just because it has auto fire, but still pretty horrible stick to use. But if you do really want one, like I say, you can actually still buy them at brand new from Telegames UK. So you can go to their website, telegames.co.uk, and grab yourself one if you really, really want one. Come brand new in a box and everything. But that's it really. There's not a lot more to say. We've looked at all the joysticks we've got here. Quite a wide selection. I've got a feeling I've got a lot more as well. Yes, I could have sworn I've got a bag somewhere that's got the later Sinclair joystick in it, which is better. Slightly different. It's kind of got a knobbly stick, but still rubbish, but not as rubbish as that one. A Cruiser, if you remember those. Cruiser joystick. A Zip stick. I know I've got one of those. A Competition Pro. A Quickshot 1. I know I've got all of those somewhere in my many boxes that are in my garage, but I've packed most of them now, so I think it might be hidden inside something, so maybe I'll have to look again once I've moved into the new house and start emptying all the boxes. I might well come across it then. So if I do find all those other ones that I've got somewhere, I will do a follow-up video, because that may be quite interesting. I could maybe do a similar video looking at joypads as well, if that's something you want to see, because I've certainly got plenty of different joypads lying around as well, especially Sega ones, blimey. But that's it really. So as always, I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed my look at a load of random old joysticks. I've been the Laird. I'll see you all again for another video very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.